We are back here live in New York with State Assemblyman and the presumptive Democratic nominee for mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani. Thank you so much for sticking around for more questions. Let's talk about immigration, deportation. Are you committed to keeping New York as a sanctuary city?
Absolutely, because ultimately we've seen that this is a policy that has kept New Yorkers safe for decades. It's a policy that had previously been defended by Democrats and Republicans alike until the fear-mongering of this current mayor. And it's a policy that we've seen ensures that New Yorkers can get out of the shadows and into the full life of the city that they belong to. And it's one that I will be proud to stand up for.
Well, you know, the border czar, Tom Homan, has said that he is planning to deploy ICE agents to New York, worksite enforcement to essentially increase and enhance the number of ICE agents here. If that happens on your watch, how do you plan to handle it?
We have to stand up and fight back, and we haven't seen that from our current mayor, who has instead been working with the Trump administration to assist in their goal of building the single largest deportation force in American history. I mean, we saw ICE agents arrest a migrant at Federal Plaza, and then we saw NYPD officers arresting a pastor who was peacefully observing that arrest. Those days are going to come to an end when I'm the mayor. The NYPD's job is to create public safety in the city, not to assist ICE agents in their mission to attack the very fabric of this city.
I don't think illegal immigration, if illegal immigration is the fabric of your city, that's a problem on that rivals that of the South, the backbone of the South being built upon slavery. But I will say, you know, of course, if, you know, a pastor is if a pastor is being arrested truly, right, because sometimes people will spin stories, but if a pastor is truly being arrested just for observing an arrest, I think that is obviously wrong, and that is the type of thing that needs to end. But the idea that ICE should not be arresting illegal immigrants and working to have them deported is absolutely ludicrous. We're talking about the violation of federal law here. The proper punishment for being here illegally, just legally, is being deported. I actually have a video about that as well. I think it's called like something about due process or something like that. But it's like, you've got a law, people have broken that law, there's a certain punishment for that law. Getting people punished for breaking the law is not fascism or authoritarianism. It's not. There's a strange idea that you know, requiring people to have the necessary legal documents and follow legal processes to come into this country, supporting that makes you a fascist, is just one of the most bizarre things that I have seen in American politics. I think probably the second most bizarre thing I've seen in American politics, behind Donald Trump actually becoming like a serious presidential, a serious politician in the United States. Because it's like, it's wild. Historically, we've never viewed, limiting residency in a country to citizens as being something fascistic. But all of a sudden, it's just something that we constantly see from the left now, rhetorically. And it's such a strange phenomenon.
To talk about the historic nature of your candidacy. If you were to win, you would become the first Muslim mayor of New York City. Along the way, throughout the course of this primary campaign, you have received death threats. You've received all sorts of attacks online. Congressman Andy Ogles called for you to be deported, for example, because you were born in Uganda. He also issued an Islamophobic epithet, which I am not going to repeat here. But what type of toll has this taken on you personally and on your family?
I think more politicians who are immigrants need to be asked this question. I was actually thinking about this because for the next leg of my vacation, I'm going to be in Ohio, and I was actually kind of thinking, you know, like, Vivek Ramaswamy is running for office in Ohio. What kind of question would I ask Vivek Ramaswamy if I were to run up to him? One of the questions I actually would ask is, you know, you've received a lot of attacks because of your race, nationally when running for office. Has that been different for you in Ohio? And sort of just like, how do you take those attacks head on without feeling discouraged? Because, you know, it's very standard and normal for minorities to become extremely discouraged when receiving continual racial epithets and just like verbal assaults. And I think that this needs to be brought up more often, because I think that it's a way for both the interviewer and the interviewee to kind of like go head to head against some of the actually fascistic messaging that we're seeing from the far right. And in actual, like literally like racially nationalistic talking points, which is like, oh, you've got to be a white Christian to be president of the United States, and like all of this stuff, where it's like we really do need to cut off rhetoric like this at the knees.
It's been difficult. It's been difficult to have to deal with the.
I saw pretty. Sorry, I do read. This is a reminder, guys, that I do read your chats even if I'm not reading them aloud, because Bray Leno in the chat said, "Bro, you got nothing on your taskbar. Bro, you got nothing there." Well, this is a computer that I've been using primarily for DJing. And I was like, okay, well, this is the only laptop that I have. I should get this set up for streaming as well. I don't need a bajillion things on my taskbar. The reason I have a bajillion things when I stream from home is just because I have they're like a bunch of things I do on my main computer, and so I just have like a bunch of things up on my taskbar. Here, literally all I've been doing with my computer is streaming, so that's why all you're seeing here is just like my streaming stuff, because I haven't really been using this for anything else. The only other thing I use this computer for is DJing. So that sort of explains that. I do think it's funny how you pointed that out, though.
And on your family?
It's been difficult. It's been difficult to have to deal with the regular and repeated smears and slander upon my name and on the very basis of my faith. And I think what's so sad is that this is but a glimpse into what life is like for many Muslim New Yorkers and many New Yorkers of different faiths who are constantly being told that they don't belong in this city and in this country that they love. And ultimately what continues to give me hope is that these moments are but small examples, something that goes against what so many New Yorkers actually feel.
Bro, I'm calling it now. If Fox News ever does a red versus blue debate, it should be Zohran Mamdani versus Vivek Ramaswamy. That would go gangbusters. That'd be fire.
Because what we know is that this is a city for all of us. And what Tuesday night showed is that what New Yorkers want more than anything is a vision that binds us all together.
I want to ask you about an issue that has divided some New Yorkers in recent weeks. You were recently asked about the term globalize the intifada, if it makes you uncomfortable. In that moment, you did not condemn the phrase. Now, just so folks understand, it's a phrase that many people hear as a call to violence against Jews. There's been a lot of attention on this issue. So I want to give you an opportunity to respond here and now. Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the intifada?
That's not language that I use. The language that I use and the language that I will continue to use to lead this city is that which speaks clearly to my intent, which is an intent grounded in a belief in universal human rights. And ultimately, that's what is the foundation of so much of my politics, the belief that freedom and justice and safety are things that to have meaning have to be applied to all people, and that includes Israelis and Palestinians alike.
But do you actually condemn it? I think that's the question and the outstanding issue that a number of people, both of the Jewish faith and beyond, have. Do you condemn that phase, globalize the intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
I've heard from many Jewish New Yorkers who have shared their concerns with me.
So the answer is no. He doesn't condemn it. He probably supports it. And I kind of hate how he's trying to weasel it. I really appreciate, even for people I disagree with, right? And this was actually one thing I respect about Zohran Mamdani is that in general, he stands on business rather than pretending to be one thing. And I'm presuming he's being authentic here, rather than pretending to be one thing and then claiming you're being something else. Donald Trump appeals to this very, very, very well. But for this answer sort of shows him straying away from that a bit, because he probably, I think I'm 99% sure, he supports the globalize the intifada messaging. That's why he's refusing to condemn it here. But if this is something he truly supports, then just like say that. Be like, okay, I want to globalize the Intifada. It's not illegal for him to say that. I know we've got anti-BDS laws, but I don't think it would run afoul of that. Now, do I condemn the use of the phrase globalized Intifada? Absolutely. I think that, there are certainly some people who don't mean to support violence when they say that. You got to be fair to that. But if you look at what intifadas are, it's literal uprisings, violent uprisings to be exact, of Palestinians up against Jews in Israel. Now we can go into the reasonings for all of that, but the fact of the matter is, intifadas in their literal sense have historically always been violent. The first intifada, second intifada, third intifada, they've all been violent. So to say, oh, we need to take intifadas, which historically have been violent, and globalize those, not good. And for what those people really mean to say, which is like, I don't know, support the BDS movement, boycott Zionist organizations and companies. There are ways to do that without invoking violent rhetoric. And I would of course, I don't support that either, but I would at least say, hey, you guys should be, if this is your position, you should be going out and saying, hey, don't support Zionist organizations, don't support Zionist companies. That's actually kind of my whole heart behind opposing the anti-BDS laws, is because I feel like, there's no reason why under the First Amendment, Americans can't say, let's boycott these organizations. I think it's absolutely absurd that you can't just say that. And it's actually kind of crazy that it's more legal to invoke violent language from intifadas than it is to be a full-throated member of the BDS movement. That is crazy to me.
Especially in light of the horrific attacks that we saw in Washington, D.C. and in Boulder, Colorado, about this moment of anti-Semitism.
Bray Little says he yapping. I know he says that in person for real. It would be so funny if in like a year or two there's like leaked footage of Zohran Mamdani saying like globalize the Intifada after all of this dodging and dancing that he's done around the question. That'd be hilarious.
In Boulder, Colorado, about this moment of anti-Semitism in our country and in our city. And I've heard those fears and I've had those conversations, and ultimately they are part and parcel of why in my campaign I've put forward a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%. I don't believe that the role of the mayor is to police speech in the manner especially of that of Donald Trump, who has put one New Yorker in jail who's just returned to his family, Mahmoud Khalil, for that very supposed crime of speech. Ultimately,
well, the Mahmoud Khalil thing that's a fake news thing. I'm not going to go into all that, but I think it's a fair position to say like, oh, as mayor, it doesn't make sense for me to go around and police speech. I sort of disagree. I think that you can condemn phrases while saying that people should still be allowed to say them. That's totally different. But he himself actually said, I don't use that language. Well, why not then? If he doesn't oppose it, then why doesn't he say it? I think that it would have been helpful for him to say, like, I don't use it because it's connected to violent rhetoric, blah, blah, blah. But I do understand why people are using that language. In America, usually it's for like peaceful support of the BDS movement. Like, it's not that hard to give a reasonable answer to a question like this. And Zohran Mamdani fumbled it in large part because I think he's a little bit more radical when it comes to the Israel and Palestine conflict. On the pro-Palestine side, there are plenty of radicals on the Zionist side, but I think he's a little bit more radical than he sort of wants to let on at this particular moment, because he is running for public office, and there are a lot of Jews in New York, so you can't just like be extremely staunchly anti-Zionist in sort of like a bizarro Superman way, where it's like everything that is pro-Zionism, I am against all of it. I think Israel shouldn't exist anymore. I think that the entire region should be run by Arabs. Like, it's hard to sort of, and I don't know if that's his position, by the way, but I'm just saying it's hard to have such a radical pro-Palestinian position in such a Jewish area like New York City. So I can see why he's couching his language when it comes to the conflict in the region.
Ultimately, what I think I need to show is the ability to not only talk about something, but to tackle it and to make clear that there's no room for anti-Semitism in this city. And we have to root out that bigotry. And ultimately, we do that through the actions. And that is the mayor I will be, one that protects Jewish New Yorkers and lives up to that commitment through the work that I do.
But very quickly, for the people who care about the language and who feel really concerned by that phrase, why not just condemn it?
My concern is to start to walk down the line of language and making clear what language I believe is permissible or impermissible takes me into a place similar to that of the president, who is looking to do those very kinds of things, putting people in jail for writing an op-ed, putting them in jail for protesting. Ultimately, it's not language that I use. It's language I understand there are concerns about. And what I will do is showcase my vision for the city through my words and my actions.
Let me ask you broadly.
You're surprised. Like Bray Leno said in the chat, like bro's yapping.
Victory has some progressive Democrats saying, boy, you may have determined the model for the Democratic Party nationally in this moment. Do you think your campaign represents the playbook for how to win in the Trump era for Democrats?
I think it showcases a new approach to politics in our city, and it's for others to decide across our country. Ultimately, what we wanted to do from the very beginning of this race was change our political instinct from lecturing to listening. And after the presidential election, where we saw New York be the state in the nation with the largest swing towards Donald Trump, 11.5 points, and we saw that swing took place far from the caricatures of Trump voters, I went to those hearts of immigrant New York City that were the fulcrum of those swings, Hillside Avenue in Queens, Fordham Road in the Bronx, and I asked Democrats, who did you vote for and why? And I heard from them again and again, I voted for Donald Trump because I could afford things that are now out of my reach today. And ultimately, when I asked them what would it take to bring you back to the Democratic Party, they said a relentless focus on an economic agenda, and that's the campaign that we built.
Do you think that your apparent victory is a sign that there is an appetite for young progressives like a Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to run for president in 2028?
It's an honor to be.
It's not just this, Bernie Sanders could have and should have won the Democratic Party nomination in 2016. I think that really shows that there is an appetite for progressive politicians. Now, I will say that I don't know how popular in general progressivism is. I still think it's a minority worldview, just like fascism, just like the far right and the alt-right. I think that when you have a progressive going up against unpopular establishment candidates, every single time the progressive will win. But when it comes to a progressive going against a popular establishment Democrat, I don't know that progressives are going to win. I don't know if that's a foregone conclusion. And then, of course, you've got the hurdle of I think progressives make up no more than 50% of the Democratic Party base, and that is being extremely generous. I think it's closer to 25%. What happens when you have a progressive who is controversial in the Democratic Party going against a Republican Party candidate who's not nearly as controversial? I would be shocked if the next GOP candidate is as controversial as Donald Trump is. So you have to have mainstream appeal to win national elections, and I just don't think that right now progressives are at that point yet.
Endorsed by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and to have been represented by her for so many years, because she's showcased so much of what we're trying to do in this campaign. The ability to not only stand up and fight, but also to win. And ultimately, what people want to see is someone who doesn't just believe in something, but can deliver on those things. And now, especially more than ever, we need to be a party that's not just against Donald Trump, but also for something. And our campaign was for working people, for bringing dignity back into those lives. And that's what the Congresswoman has showed time and again.
I can't let you go without doing a little bit of local politics.
Please.
So Mayor Eric Adams already in the general election as an independent candidate. We're waiting to see if Andrew Cuomo officially throws his hat into the ring. Do you think you can win if the two of them are in the race? Can you beat both of them?
Absolutely. We can beat anyone that's in this race, because what we've shown is that this is a campaign that has the support of more than 400,000 New Yorkers. In the first round of Tuesday night, we got more votes than Eric Adams did by the last round of 2021. And ultimately, it's a referendum on how he made this city so unaffordable. For too long, politicians have pretended to simply be bystanders to a cost of living crisis. They've actually exacerbated it. And our vision is one that will respond to it and make this a city affordable for every New Yorker.
All right. Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, thank you so much for the conversation. Really appreciate it. Please stay safe on the campaign trail.
Thank you so much for having me.
I do want to add a little bit of commentary there on the end, because I do think it's very interesting you brought that Kristen Welker brought up Eric Adams. I do find this fascinating. I feel like nobody really pays much attention to local city party nomination processes. Like, no one really cares about those. But I do find it interesting. I think if Eric Adams had won the Democratic Party nomination, he would be a shoo-in for winning the mayoral race. Like, imagine if you flipped the roles and put, say, that Eric Adams won the Democratic Party nomination, and that Zohran Mamdani is an independent. Then I think that Eric Adams would be a shoo-in to win the mayoral race. It's kind of crazy how much power you get in an election just by having the party nomination, even when nobody is paying attention to the party nomination process. I find that really interesting. Like, who's going to get more votes? Andrew Cuomo or Eric Adams? Probably Andrew Cuomo, literally because he was running for the Democratic Party nomination previously. And people are aware that he lost that to Zohran Mamdani. It's almost like people just naturally disregard independence for some reason, which I think is quite unfortunate. But yeah, these policy proposals from Zohran Mamdani, I think in general, are not workable. He's got a few good ideas. Particularly, I love the public transit idea, getting rid of extra fees and stuff just to use the system you already pay for. Love that idea. But for the majority of stuff, I feel like it's just not going to work. In places where it's been tried, it hasn't worked, right? He touted Kansas City, and then I went and looked it up, and all the shelves are empty. The places is stinking, and you smell rotten eggs. I don't think that that's the vision he wants to sell, and that's why he's claiming it was a success, when in reality, it's literally about to fail. We've got a store with no products. What type of store is that? It's ridiculous. That's no store. That's a building. That's a hollowed husk. Man, but yeah, if he wins, it'd be really interesting to see what happens to New York City. I'm glad I got the chance to visit before everything went down, at least. But yeah.